or properties in the county. If they can come, we can have a lot of questions answered, be able to go through with each individual what their property is currently zoned, what it's proposed to be zoned, and then also the draft zoning in terms of the uses that will be changing. So we're hoping for a very productive session and for people to join us. So again, that's Tuesday, December 13th at 5:30 p.m. in this room. We will have the consultants present. So we're hoping it will be about an hour-long session with most of that being engagement with individuals going over printouts of the map. We'll also have technology present for people that have questions about their current property, what they can do with it, things like that. So we found these sessions to be really helpful in the past, and we hope to get a good turnout from everybody. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
For folks who are looking to come virtually, is there a website they can go to get that link?
Yes. So if you can go to monroecdo.com, thank you for reminding me, Peter. There is a tab on that website called Maps. And when you go to that website and scroll down, there's a draft zoning map link, and you can type in your address and it will pull up all the information I'm discussing. And it will also have an option for a feedback survey, and people can mark down how satisfied they are with their zoning. And we're actually going to follow up with those people, whether they're dissatisfied or not, and be able to have a conversation with them.
Excellent. I've already pushed this website out to some folks. It's monroecdo.com.
monroecdo.com.
It's a great website.
Yes. Yes. Sure.
Could you please tell us the room again?
Yes. So it'll be in the Nat U Hill room. So in this room here, the courthouse, 3rd floor.
I just had a council meeting in this room, but.
Oh, on the 13th, is it?
That's not happening.
I think it's December 13th.
I just checked the calendar.
No.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, I hope to see you all there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dolan. We also had an update from the auditor's office.
Good evening, Council. I just recently forwarded you a few documents that are just in-house ARPA documents. So I provided you with our ARPA funding internal controls, just so you can kind of review and know that we do have those. There's also our project procedure document, and both may change as we continue to move forward with this grant. And then in preparation for further ARPA discussions tonight, I also provided an American Rescue Plan Act cheat sheet. So it's all taken from the root documents, but I just provided like a little bit more concise information and then gave you the root sources so you can kind of dig in deeper as you need to or want to. So I just started off with an overview, the key objectives, the initial procedure with how we established the fund, the ordinance and plan preparation, and then the categories, the 4 main categories, and then the subcategories within those. So I just thought it might be a helpful tool, to use as we move forward with these different projects. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or, once you've had a time to kind of review and dive in further, please let me know. Any questions at this time?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Let technology catch up. I just, in order to clarify just how complicated this is, the cheat sheet is 7 pages long. So this is not a cut and dried process. So thank you for putting that together. That's really helpful. And I was wondering if staff could put that on the council's website, or is it already on the county's website?
It is is it in the packet? Okay. I just provided it recently, so I'm not positive it's in the packet, but we will get it up regardless.
Excellent. There's been a lot of community conversation about how quickly we should spend it or how slowly we should spend it or how much of it we should spend, yada, yada, yada. And it's helpful, I think, for the public to see all the work that you put into these documents to understand just how, intense this can be.
It is, and there's a lot of layers. So that any assistance with the understanding, I would love to put out there for the public.
Yeah.
So, good. Thank you.
Are there other questions from council? Okay, I did have one question could you remind me if, I know that if we make decisions on ARPA projects, they need to be included in the commissioner's plan. Is it procedurally, can we appropriate and then have them adopt into the plan? Or does it have to be in the plan prior to our taking action on appropriation?
My understanding is they need to be in the plan first before you can move forward with appropriating. And I think that was done by design. So the two bodies work together well.
Sure, and we'll be talking with them later tonight, but they only have one meeting in the morning, it sounds like, before we have scheduled possible appropriations, which is why I was asking. So we'll just have to make sure that we got that covered.
So anything currently in the plan, obviously you could appropriate for that.
Sure. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from council? Okay, I don't see anybody. Are there any other departments who wish to give updates? I do not see any. So we'll move to item number 4 on the agenda, which is with our surveyor.
Council, I move to approve the surveyor's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 1202-0000, Surveyor's Corner Perpetuation Fund of $26,000 in the services category.
Second.
Hello, thanks for calling this special session. I am requesting an additional appropriation of $26,000 in the geodetic control line in the surveyor perpetuation fund. I always like to make a comment that that is a dedicated non-reverting fund. So the goal is to get your support tonight and then go to the commissioners next Wednesday, not tomorrow, and ask for the contract to be approved. So in July, I did form AAT, which just gives you some heads up if we're coming back for additional appropriation. I indicated I was going to come back for 75,000, but when I got some initial quotes back, I scaled them down, and I'm going to take a slower approach just so we're really executing and getting max value for our server or for our the cost. So I open it up for any additional questions.
Are there any questions from council?
That's what it's there for.
All right, fantastic. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley. Yes. Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we can move to item 5 from the probation department.
Council, I move to approve the probation department's request to amend the 2022 salary ordinance to have an employee salary of $37,638 in Fund 25100000, project income user fee, account line 11410, probation officer, CASP post-sentence position classified as an outlier for the remainder of 2022. Due to an interdepartmental promotion, the employee's current pay rate is higher than the 2022 minimum rate for probation officers, $36,879. The requested effective date for this amendment is November 6, 2022.
Second.
Welcome, Ms. Brady.
Can you turn your, no, make it green. Yep, that one. Yep, perfect.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Linda Brady, Chief Probation Officer, and I'm here before you to advise you or ask your permission to have an outlier for the rest of this year for one position. I've had a lot of problems with vacancies with our community corrections officers and probation officers, as I've kept you advised of. This particular probation officer position that we were able to fill from internal promotion was vacant for more than a year. And this has just never happened before in the history of our department. We've never had positions go open for this long. We've never had this many positions open. It's just unprecedented. So at any rate, we were lucky enough to have an internal person who wanted to apply for the position, was qualified and was promoted. And he, because he'd been with the county more than a year, he was making more than an entry-level probation officer. So Judge Decoff, our presiding judge, approved that we go ahead and hire him and just freeze his salary at what he's making, which happens to be $759 more than an entry-level probation officer for this year. And then his salary will not be a high outlier starting January 1st. He'll go up to $40,000, which is the starting probation officer salary for 2023. So I think that's it. If you have any questions?
Thanks. Are there any questions from council? I do not see any hands raised. Are there any members of the public who would like to make comment on this item? I see none. So could we have a roll call vote, Ms. Kim?
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we move to item 6 from the Health Department.
Council, I move to approve the Health Department's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 1159-0000 Health Fund of $5,283 in the personnel category.
Second.
And I think we have Ms. Miller here on Zoom. We do not hear you. Okay, she said her video and audio are not working. It looks as though we could perhaps just read the.
Counselor
Yes.
Iverson has his hand up.
If Ms. Miller's technology doesn't work, I can present it as the
That'd be
liaison.
great.
Sure. Council, the health department is requesting an additional appropriation of $5,283 into the health fund to cover the accrued, that's earned but not unused vacation time for the employment termination of the prior financial manager. This was an unexpected need, and after a review of other alternative methods for covering the gap, it is determined that requesting this additional appropriation to cover these funds is necessary in order to most adequately continue the daily operations of which Ms. Miller is now taking on those responsibilities. So it's unfortunate that she couldn't be here. Well, but that's what this appropriation is for.
Fantastic. Thanks for doing that, Mr. Iverson. Are there any questions from council?
I think we have to do this. I don't think it's a choice. So, yeah.
It is in the personnel policy, I checked.
It's, I'm sorry.
It's in the personnel policy. It provides for the payment of vacation time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Absolutely. Is there any public comment on this item? I see no public comment, at least from my view. So could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley. Yes. Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. And we'll move to item number 7 with the Public Defender's Office.
Council, I move to approve the public defender's request for a category transfer in Fund 91600000 System Navigator of $218.04 from the personnel category to the capital category.
Second.
And we have Ms. Stockwell. Sweetie, I can see.
Good evening. Michael Hunt and Heather Stuffle from the Public Defender's Office. We're trying to transfer this money and I will let Ms. Stuffle explain what we're doing.
It's just a bit of housekeeping. When we bought the equipment at the beginning of the grant, computers and phones, they ended up being a little bit more expensive than what we anticipated. So we're just asking to transfer from a payroll line that wasn't filled in the beginning to cover that extra expense.
That seems pretty straightforward. Are there any questions from council?
Only why is the chief public defender here? This could have actually been done with a Zoom visit or so I'm glad that you decided to visit us. But,
It's
interesting you like us so much, but it was not.
We want you to see us and notice we're here. This is also a
Appreciate it.
grant we received, so yeah.
It's a good
Thank you.
grant.
I did make that offer for them to come virtually, so.
It's nice to be able to do things in person again.
Sure is.
Seeing no questions then, are there any comments from the public? Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley. Yes. Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll move to the formerly item 9, now number 8, discussion. If you'll remember, at our November regular session, council reviewed the fiscal impact numbers regarding an increase to the merit deputies and correctional center personnel. I'd like to bring that discussion back to the table for further discussion and perhaps a proposal on how to move forward. To start, I'd like to give Councilors Munson or Crossley the opportunity to begin the discussion with possibly updating us as in the public as to our prior discussion.
Councilor Crossley, would you like to begin?
Sure. Yes, where am I? Yeah.
Just reviewing what we discussed last meeting, or I
okay.
can if you
Okay,
like.
yeah.
Okay. I thought the best way to begin this would be just to review very quickly what we did at the last meeting, and that was we had a discussion regarding proposed increases of compensation for both jail staff and sheriff's deputies. And there were 2 proposals that Jennifer Crossley and I made, proposals A and B. Proposal A was a bonus, and that was for ARPA funding for 2022, and that was a bonus of $1,000 to be paid later in December. And this had a fiscal impact, including the FICA of $119,492. The second proposal, B, we talked about an increase in base salary. And this was a little bit more complicated. And Michelle, do you want to put up on the screen that Excel file?
I'm sorry, I was distracted. What did you ask?
Would you put up on the screen the Excel file
Okay,
that we just reviewed?
just. What portion do you want to look
Oh.
at?
Okay, we had just talked about proposal A, so proposal B would be fine, just to look at that. And if you can make that full screen.
That's full
Oh.
screen.
That's full screen. Okay. Thank you. You can see that there are two funds involved, general fund and public safety fund. And the fiscal impact is calculated for a number of different options. The options are a 9%, a 10%, a 14%, and a 15% increase. And based on discussion at the meeting, last meeting, there was a desire to also look at a 20% increase. The increases are based on 2022 salary, and they include the already budgeted for 2023 5% cost of living allowance. And you can see Michelle has calculated the fiscal impacts for the various different funds. And what we don't see at the bottom of the screen, but maybe she will be able to quickly do this for us,
That's what I'm working on.
is the total fiscal impact. We saw that for proposal A, the bonus, but this is a much larger increase. So we do need to review the total fiscal impact. Councilor McKim, you have a question.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. What, can you give me the, let's say the 1 year salary for a corrections officer
Can I do that?
or somebody?
I can.
Somebody at the auditor's
Just a
table.
moment.
I just don't have too many numbers in front of me.
There are.
I wanted to calculate what percentage that $1,000 bonus would represent.
Okay, do you want it for 2022 or 2023?
2022.
About 39. About 39,000.
Less than $20 an hour base salary.
Right. I believe it's about 39,000, but I don't know them for both departments.
And I didn't mean to like take you off track. I
That's
just
okay.
wanted to get that quick number so I can do
Okay.
some back of the napkin calculations here. But you can continue.
Okay, and again, what were you looking for?
Just a year one salary,
The year one salary for a deputy
the corrections officer.
corrections officer. Corrections officer is a simple B. Simple B. At the base rate or 1 year?
1 year.
1 year would be 43,015.
Thank you.
Do you also need it for the deputy?
That's based on a 40-hour week.
Okay. And then for the deputy, yeah, I could use the number for the deputy as well.
Okay, for merit deputy, 1 year is 55,557.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Those are informative numbers for us to look at right there when we realize that a number of our correctional officers move over to the deputy ranks when they have the openings to do so. That's a substantial difference.
I just realized that I had a hidden column on that spreadsheet that you're viewing. I forgot to open it up. And it's just so that you can see the comparison of where the jail would be if we left them on the grid. And so, hold on just a second.
Okay.
And so just, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so it, instead of a 20%, if you go with the 8-year level, that comes to 19%. And that keeps them on the grid. If you choose to go that way, so.
Okay,
I don't care whether they're on the grid or not.
I
Yeah.
can't.
So,
So, then that parallels the 9% in that was already on there.
pardon?
And the advantage of staying on the grid is what exactly?
That just, it corresponds with what the WIS had placed them with regards to their classification. So that keeps them and their classifications within that same grid level. And that's the only reason I was just giving you what it would look like if you used the grids for their levels rather than going off grid. And I would have to create a separate grid for them with 10, 15, or 20. This way, I wouldn't have to create a whole new grid for them. So this is just so you can see kind of a comparison kind of thing.
Right.
I was asked to do that earlier.
Right, and the idea being that WIS put things together for us and it would behoove us to maybe stick with that system so that we could kind of maintain the grids and the system that they put in place as they've advised. Yes, Mr. McKim.
And just to go back to those numbers I was asking for earlier, what I'm trying to do is just make a comparison of the $1,000 bonus versus a raise that would be retroactive to November 1st, because I know that or the first payroll in November. The $1,000 is approximately a 14%, equivalent to a 14% raise over 2 months for the corrections officers and an 11% raise for the merit deputies over 2 months. So that's kind of the rough equivalent. So it's less than 15%.
Okay.
More than 10%.
Are there other comments from council?
So I would point out for the people viewing the spreadsheet on the screen that the 3 green columns under proposal B are those that maintain the WIS classification. The yellow columns are the ones that do not. And this is relevant for correctional officers only.
If I may, I do want to offer a reminder that I think everyone's aware of, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I don't say it, I don't think. This is an estimated fiscal impact. One of the things that this impact does not account for is that an adjustment of the base is also going to adjust the overtime rate. So this fiscal impact doesn't account for the increase in overtime.
So thank you. That's very important to note because we know we will have an increase in overtime expenses. Marty, talk.
Let's see if I raise my hand there. Yes, one thing we need to recognize about that is that the longer we delay in getting that base salary increase so that we can keep the right staff there, the longer we're going to be paying overtime. And that makes no sense. We would be far better off to staff appropriately and not pay as much overtime. Now, I can remember the day when they lined up trying to make sure they got the overtime because we had plenty of staff. The same thing with the merit deputies. That is no longer as much of a case as once it was. And it's not as safe for the people who are incarcerated. We need to have sufficient staff there so that it can all work smoothly and make sure that we are paying such that we can retain folks to stay there, because every time we change, they can't just go directly on the floor and start working the day they get the job. So I'm hoping that we understand that the bottom line is we have to make a correction. And I hope we do it this evening.
I hope so too. It's hard for us to know who's calling on whom. Who would like to be the person to direct the visuals in this meeting? Should I do it because I'm
Go ahead.
talking about this, or?
Yeah.
Okay, I will gladly do that. I think Councilor McKim wanted to say something.
I was just going to throw out a suggestion. One thing that we could do, because we have, of course, we haven't received our 1782s yet. I think there's still some other detailed analysis that I think we're going to want to do. What we could do is do a 15% increase effective retroactive to November 1st, and then essentially agree to reassess an additional 5% or whatever we might want to do January 1st or whenever we get the budget order.
Well, I will comment on Mr. McKim's comments that this is an attractive proposal because we do know what we are talking about then when we have the budget order in front of us. And I think that is good fiscal responsibility. Additionally, I would like to make an unrelated comment, and that is I am less concerned about following the WIS classification in this particular case for the correctional officers, because as soon as they enter into contract negotiations the next time, that classification will go out the window. And it's just not important when we're dealing with our employees who are under contract. So, and I know it can be more work for our council administrator, but I think that's going to go with the contract territory, that we're just going to have difficulty with the WISC grid in that case. Mr. Iverson?
Just for clarification, this agenda item is still a discussion tonight, or are we taking action this evening?
I would like to see us take an action tonight, because we discussed this at the last meeting.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
So we would need a motion if there were to be action.
I'm happy to make that motion. I just wanted to kind of gauge the reaction around the room.
Could I ask a question before you do that? I didn't understand Are you saying we're not going to guarantee the 5% increase like everybody else is going to get next year?
Oh, no, that definitely, that is already there, but we're talking about
Right.
an additional fifth, well, we're talking about going 15% over the 2022 salary. So rather than 20,
Just
20%.
2022,
Right.
we're going to take it a 15%, go back to November 1, make it retroactive and get it paid through there. And then next year for 2023, it will be that new salary that we already put in place for 2022 plus the 5%. So the total is the 20% that they had requested. Is that, as I understand it?
Go ahead.
I would like to request that if and when you make that motion, you're saying November 1st. November 1st is in the middle of a payroll.
Yeah, sorry, I meant.
And,
Yes.
okay, so I wanted to give you that date
Okay.
that you need to include. So give me just one moment.
Do
So we're
whatever.
considering the 15% level
Mhm.
and then an option to move it even further in 2023 to a 20%.
Right. After we receive the budget order.
That was the idea.
But is there any indication that the budget order is going to somehow magically remove our budget deficit?
No, but we'll also know what the reversions to the end of the year are.
And we've gotten some information on reversions. Is that
Right.
right?
Yes, we have.
Fairly substantial.
And I think we should review those before we make any decisions tonight.
Okay, the date that you would need this to be effective would be October the 23rd. That's the beginning of the payroll, which includes November 1st.
The agreement for those bonuses, the date on that, the other bonuses.
I don't remember. It'd be a question for the auditor.
I just want to make sure we're not missing this up.
I can't hear what Ms. Huck is saying.
No, I couldn't either.
Do you want to ask that, Marty?
I didn't particularly care.
I still can't hear.
Well, let me just go ahead and make a motion. Debate.
Yes.
Okay, council, I move that we amend the 2022 salary ordinance to increase the salaries of the corrections officers and the merit deputies by 15% effective October 23rd, 2022.
Second.
Should I be doing this? Because
Okay.
I'm not able to hear some comments and.
I know, I will. Counselor Iverson has a comment he wishes to make.
I do. I wanted to break the silence. I wanted to thank the council for putting a lot of work into this. I think this is really important that particularly council members Crossley and Munson did all the work on this. I think we've gotten to a good point here, and I'm excited that we're able to tackle this problem. As I've said before, this is a national problem. This is happening all over, and the fact that we're taking action locally is very important. So thank you for bringing it to the fore.
All right. So I would let, excuse me, Counselor Decker, do you want to make a comment?
Well, I don't want to interrupt, but I do have a comment when.
Okay. I wanted the opportunity for Ms. King to present the information on reversions as we know them right now. And I think this is good for us to look at. And she will include the caveats that go along with the information.
Sharon.
There we go. Thank you. So you can see the grand total of estimated reversions is 822,000 plus. And this includes both reversions from the jail and from the sheriff's department. Those are in bright blue if you want to see them. And when I looked at this afternoon, I did not have an opportunity to get on the phone to the financial director at the jail to ask a question. But I see Commander Crow here, and I wanted to make sure that that he was comfortable with these numbers.
I can't see.
Sorry, we're debating who's going to speak. I did speak with the financial manager at the jail and Kirsten Fuller, and she was great.
She's actually here.
Oh, but she went over it in detail and thinks that the information is solid on the jail side. Now, I wasn't able to confer with the sheriff's side, unfortunately, but we feel good about the jail numbers.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Gregory. And I really appreciate the financial officers and our auditor staff for pulling together this information for us, because this is a substantial reversion. And I think it gives me great comfort to look at this, given our decisions that we wish to make. So does anybody have any questions about this information?
Only it's more interpretation than question, just that, you know, if you look at that amount alone, that's about equivalent to a 14% increase for a year.
Exactly.
So it's actually a fairly substantial amount.
It is. I was comparing the reversion information with the total fiscal impact on the previous spreadsheet, and that's really comforting. So, okay. Now we do know that these are reversions covered just 2023. Well, these are 2022 reversions that go into covering expenses in 2022 and further into 2023. But we do, we will not necessarily always have these reversions to rely on. So Mr. Deckard had comments he wished to make.
I did. Thank you very much. And I appreciate all the counselors that have been talking about this and working on it and trying to fix it. In life, I hate things that don't have action or don't have movement, and I abhor things not moving. It's against my nature. That's how life sometimes gets, though. One of the things I like about what Counselor McKim is saying is this makes movement right now to address an issue that is going on right now. It is also making, in his comments, as he's noting, it's making a commitment to come back on better numbers and to revisit the remaining portion here that has been requested. And that, to me, is movement on a problem. And I'd rather have movement on a problem than to continue to dwell on one. And I think that doesn't help anybody. It's not perfect, but I've not yet met perfect. I don't think perfect walks in much and shakes our hands, but it's movement, and that's what we can do, and it's problem solving. And so to me, there's an appeal to that as we figure out this issue. I made the comment earlier that we kind of muddle through things and figure things out, and this is what it looks like for everybody watching at home and otherwise. So anyway, that's all I wanted to add to that.
Thank you. Mr. McKim.
And I apologize. I would like to amend my own motion because we also have to include the 2023 salary ordinance. Otherwise, so basically I'm asking that this increase also be applicable to 2023 salary ordinance. Otherwise, their salaries would all go back down on January 1st. So
Right. I was just about to bring this up, that it was not part of the motion.
And I wanted to make sure that that includes the 5%.
The 5% is, they're already getting an advance on the 5% by 2 months. They're already getting the 5%, right? By starting out, and then another 10%. And then on January 1st, we're going to reevaluate possibly another 5%. So there's.
That's not what I thought we were.
Oh,
Yeah, that's not the way I took it.
No, that's not the way I took it. So would you withdraw the first motion and start over?
I withdraw my motion.
This is really, really important that we have this exact.
You're going to withdraw the whole motion? I'll be happy to make one. Here's what I thought we were doing. I thought we were saying we were going to increase their 2022 salaries by 15%, make it effective going back to October
23rd.
23rd.
So that it would be retroactive. And then that would already give them that 15% increase for 2022, and automatically, like every other salary, just like the one we talked about with probation department, if they got that 5% on top of the raise we just agreed, they got what go. So it seems to me when you're working the 2023 salary, it's just automatically going to be that 5% increase the way we've done everybody else. Now, that's what I thought we were doing.
That's the way I understand.
That's the way I understood it too.
Okay, well then what was the point of the whole discussion about reevaluating in January?
I don't.
Then there was, okay, well, that was my motion. So that what you're saying was not my motion. That's fine. You go ahead and make the motion.
Oh, well, that was what I just said is my motion. You want me to start again? Okay. I move that we change the salaries under discussion by 15% for 2022, retroactive back to October 23rd. And that for 2023, they would receive the 5% on top of that, just like everyone else, on top of the increase, the total increase. Giving them a total of the 20%.
Right. We have a motion.
And that is my motion.
Okay, we have a motion and
Second.
Ms. Crossley seconded this.
Okay.
Could I ask a clarifying question?
Please.
My understanding of what was just stated in the motion is that we would be giving them a COLA for 2023 based on the new salary. So they're actually getting more than a 5% COLA because their salaries, more than 5% over their current 2022, because it will be inclusive of this new amount.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
So this is actually more than 20%.
Good. I don't see that, but
I'm just making sure the math is mathing. Is
I
that
just
right?
have it right.
I
think it would be helpful to have an illustration of this if Michelle would take that, take one of the base salaries and just show what the 15% increase is effective October 23rd. And then we will add on the 5% for 2023 to show what that is.
That would be nice.
We have a recess so Michelle can do those calculations.
Oh, it's
5
just
minutes.
for one, it was
Yeah.
just for that one salary.
Well, yeah.
But I still would like a recess.
Yeah, 5 minutes, that's fine.
Yeah,
We can
please do.
recess.
Well, I have a question before we recess. I want to make sure that I understand it correctly. That what's in the salary ordinance currently for 2023 would be negated it would be this 15% plus 5% for 2023. So the new salary that would be in the salary ordinance would be the 15% plus the 5%.
Correct.
And we would calculate that on the 2022 salary, not on the 2023 salary that's currently in there.
Yes.
Okay, clarification. Thank you.
And can I, basically, it's a 20.8%. If you just do the math, it's
Yep.
it winds up being a 20.8% increase.
Do you want to see the 2022 or do you want to see the final
Oh,
of 20?
if you could just go 2022 presently, like this minute.
Yeah.
Before the vote. Then 2022 with the 15% if the motion passes. And
Okay.
then 2023, if the motion passes with the additional 5%.
Okay,
I'm so sorry to.
that's okay.
Really weird.
So are we in recess?
Well, and it seems to me the reason why we're going through all these hoops is because this is important and we want to be able to get it right.
Right. Well, there is that. And we also want to be ready to pay our personnel
That's
January
right. So
1.
good fiscal stewards, et
Yes.
cetera. Yes.
So. So
Are we
we are,
recessed or no?
we're in recess right now. We're in recess right now.
Thank you.
Are we in recess?
I know.
This follows along the end of the year and
I know. That's why I want to make it simple for at least the beginning of the year. So since we're in recess, the reason for to keep things simple, we wanted to use a bonus rather than change the base pay in 2022. Right. And it is in fact,
Cheryl,
yeah.
are you more concerned with what the jail amount rather or? Okay. Okay. Okay, that's fine. I didn't know if you wanted me to do like base with regards to the deputy, the sergeant and the lieutenant. Do you want me to do all three of them or just the deputy? Okay, all right.
But then I was like.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So Kathy, there is a way to make it made.
Standard process.
I've been here tonight in this meeting.
I just trying to figure it out here. So here's the one. This is such a cluster. One.
Yeah. I know the transmission is not up there. I was just got
Do you go to Kira Bolin for your hair?
You can like be in the room, yeah, but you can't be anywhere.
I know.
That's cool. So you're gonna be standing there watching like, that's what I'm planning to do. Phone in the pocket, camera at home. I think that might be probably not too long. Not as musically last year, but yeah, it's probably within. How are we doing?
About 5 minutes.
Nope.
We're almost there.
Are we ready?
Okay, everybody.
Can we get everybody to get their seats?
Yeah, let's.
Hello.
Order in the court. Oh.
Yes.
Are the commissioners?
All right.
I mean, yeah. But if we know that, that's okay, right?
Okay.
I agree.
All right, let's.
Okay. How are we doing?
So we're
Madam
back.
President,
Yes, can you hear me?
we can hear you.
All right, welcome back. I guess we're ready to resume the meeting.
Okay.
I'm not
waiting
sure
to
what
hear
I have.
from I'm waiting to hear from our excellent staff sitting behind me. I'm just turn around to see. Is it ready? Can we make public or? I got an, I think. When it's ready, we'll see it on the screen. Okay.
Papers that need to be signed.
Okay. So I'm going to let the staff there, now we can see all of it. And this is important for our sheriffs and correctional officers. This is important for the public, and this is important for us to see before we have a vote on this. Okay.
Hold on. Base salary is wrong.
Is there a conversation happening because it can't be heard on Zoom?
Okay, I can't. Mr. Iverson, you have a question?
I do. There is a comment from our fiscal officer in the jail that the base salary for 2022 is off by a little bit here. Oh, it's right now. Excellent. I have no comment nor question.
Okay. Counselor Hawk.
Okay, I see that says that's a base salary, base entry salary, but when we're talking about the increases, that's for everybody, not just for that entry
Right.
salary.
And
Just
this,
wanted to make sure.
so are there further comments or questions from any council members?
Make a comment.
Ms. Crossley?
So again, it was a pleasure working with Councilor Munson with this and helping with this as well. And as Councilor Decker just explained, hopefully this will help with the issues that we are having in terms of staffing. I think as a personal thing, I would love to see how our correctional officers, this department would be able to work with our HR department to try to work with them to staff as much as possible. I'm not sure how we can do that, but it would be nice to see how we can do those things. And I also would just think too, in terms of even implementing something as an exit interview so that we can have something going forward. And this is not just for them. This is across the board for our county departments so that we can know and truly understand. Obviously, we know the biggest reason why folks are leaving or why is because they have been underpaid. But in addition to that, I would like to see how we can do something where we would be able to have exit interviews where why people are going and to have a better, clear picture and a clear understanding. But again, I really am pleased with the outcome of this. I am happy. I would hope that the folks in the back are happy as well with this, and we can continue to move forward and making sure that our staff is adequately taken care of as we move forward with this. So.
Any further comments? Madam President, I think you're ready to ask for a roll call vote.
Okay. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay, so I didn't hear what was going on. So. Okay, I just want to clarify that this motion is for both the correctional officers as well as the merit. I want to clarify, sorry, I want to clarify that this motion is for the correctional officer staff and the merit deputies.
Okay. As it was laid out, it was for the staff of the jail and for the merit deputies.
Okay.
And it does not include the commander. And would you clarify that, Michelle?
Yes, it would not include for the correctional staff. It would not include the commander nor the assistant commander. And then it would be for the merit deputies only. Okay, for 2022.
Also, does it also include administrative staff in those two departments?
No,
No, it doesn't.
only for the correctional officers, the
Okay.
correction staff. The other is for merit deputy only per the contracts.
All right.
Okay,
So it's basically, it's the collective bargaining units.
it is.
Correct.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
All right. Are there any other comments? I know I tried this once, but are we ready to do a roll call vote?
Okay.
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Counselor Munson.
Yes.
Counselor Wills.
No.
Motion passed 6-1. This is changes to the ordinance. It will need to have a second vote.
Okay,
Please tell us the date of our next meeting for that vote.
December 6th.
December 6th, is that not the date that the newly elected officials will be in training?
That is a 2-day training, and the session for new county councilors is on the 7th. So I think I'm the only one going, and my plan is to vote here and either zoom on up there or to go up early next morning.
Just want to make sure we had full house.
I appreciate you thinking about me.
okay, so we are moving on to what was number 8 and is number 9, which is the presentation of a draft resolution supporting a capital improvement board for the convention center project. And our legal counsel, Molly Turner King, has been working on this. So I'm going to turn it over to her to kind of give us some background and explain.
While she's pulling that up, what I'll do is I will prepare grids and information for you so that you'll have that to review before the December 6th meeting. So you can make those comparisons.
Thank you.
Okay, what's before you is a draft resolution in support of Commissioner's Ordinance 2022-46, which was passed on November 9th. That ordinance laid or established the framework for a CIB. The draft begins, and it's included in your packet because I can't get the entire draft on the screen. It begins about outlining the efforts that the council has and continues to take in regards to the convention center. So it talks about the passage of the innkeeper's tax, what innkeeper's tax is used for, and the food and beverage tax. And then after all the whereases, it one says that we support the efforts taken by the commissioners. The council supports the efforts taken by the commissioners in the passage of the ordinance and the formation of the CIB, or the framework for the CIB. It pledges the continued use of 40% of the innkeeper's tax revenues for the purpose of financing the capital maintenance and operational costs of the convention center. It acknowledges the council's responsibility for approving real estate transactions as required by Indiana code. And then it willingly accepts the council's responsibility as it pertains to the CIB, the continued maintenance of the convention center, and sets forth that the council is looking forward to working with their city and county colleagues in the expansion of the convention center. And I'm happy to answer any questions as it pertains to the draft resolution.
Thank you. I wanted to just acknowledge that there has been a response from the city since we first saw this, the commissioner's proposal. And in my humble opinion, I think that we should take this proposed resolution as it's written and support the commissioners without adding anything. The intent of this introduction was really just to acknowledge what the commissioners have put forward and not to really debate any amendments or changes that might occur. That is sort of out of our purview and is really in the domain of the commissioner. So I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that. And with that, I will open it up for any other comments or
I'll
questions.
I'll comment on that real quick. It is, that is correct. This draft resolution is in support of the ordinance as written. It does not incorporate any of the proposed changes that came about after the passage of this ordinance.
Counselor Iverson.
All right, there are two others with comments and questions too. My question is on the second clause where the county council pledges the continued use of 40%. And of course, you introduced that in a previous whereas clause. And my question is, why is the language exactly 40%? Why isn't it at least 40% or, you know, some type of qualifying on that 40%?
Or just strike the 40%, is continued use of the innkeeper.
It seems like that is.
It just doesn't need to be on there at all.
I can strike the 40%. I had just incorporated the 40% because that is what is currently being pledged. And since this was a draft, I just started with the base of where we're at right now.
Yeah, excuse me. When I read that, it struck me as something that might, you know, tie the hands of future councils
Right.
to a certain percentage. But yeah, I'll let my other colleagues be more eloquent.
So I reflected that proposed change just now. It's kind of hard to see. I struck through the 40% and just as continued use of the innkeeper's tax revenues.
I'm happy with that.
Me too.
Okay,
Great.
it's amazing. We must be thinking along the same lines. I thought we were, to begin with, until I started reviewing the draft, that we were just going to agree to support the commissioners and their decision to move forward with the CID. If we're going to build a convention center, then would rather use a CID as any other way to go about it. But I didn't understand why we threw anything in there about the innkeeper's tax, because of part of what the city wanted to do was to have appointments to the Convention and Visitors Commission, and that's not the way the state legislation is written at all. And so I just don't think we ought to say anything about the innkeeper's tax on here. And as a reminder, the reason why it was split up differently was, to begin with, we had an innkeeper's tax of 3%. And when we went to the state, we added on that 2% so that we could have a convention center. That first 3% was for the Visitors Bureau. And then, so the 2% was added on so that we could have a convention center. But the agreement always was that we would pay the debt first that we incurred having to do with that convention center. So that may be why the decision of what percent or whatever, but it seems to me that we should not, as a council, try to tell another council 3 or 4 years down the road what percent they need to be working with, because the revenue could change dramatically. So just as far as I'm concerned, just leave that out and let's support the commissioners and. Right.
Okay, Jeff had a comment, I believe.
So, yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't oppose just striking that entire number 2. I mean, I understand the point of it. I think the point is to indicate the council's good faith to continue to support this expanded convention center with the innkeeper's tax. And I mean, I think I certainly pledge to work in good faith to support that extension with the or expansion with the innkeeper's tax. So I think, but it's hard to in this resolution, it's probably not the right place for it. So then in number 3, I think is that essentially the same thing? Are we just saying that the council in good faith, because it's our statutory responsibility to approve the purchase or sale of real property over $1,000, that we're basically saying, yes, we're in good faith, we will do what the CIB says. And
yeah, so number 3 is just acknowledging our responsibility and that we know it's there and we would commit to doing it.
Okay.
I think that's okay.
So, yeah.
So, I mean, I certainly want to indicate my support for a CIB. And so I
So
Happy to,
I could strike 2 and 3, and then it would just read that the council supports the actions taken by the commissioners and that the county or the council willingly accepts its responsibilities as they pertain to the CIB and the continued maintenance of the convention center.
basically striking 2 and 3.
Yeah.
2 and 3.
Get rid of three.
That would make sense.
Right.
I think Cheryl had a comment.
Yes, I agree with striking 2 and 3 and also the second whereas. Or at least the red part of the second whereas. Is that okay?
The what part?
Are you referencing the 40% part?
Yes.
Okay,
The red part in the pack is everything after the Indiana code citation.
yes. And there is confusion among people in city government about the Convention and Visitors Commission and what is possible. It really is very clear in state statute as to how this statute is to be managed by local government and who the appointments are made by. And as far as I know, we cannot just willy-nilly change state statute and say, okay, well, we'll just let the mayor make appointments. That I don't think is really doable. And if we were to agree to it in county government, that this would be a good idea and the legislature would be approached, I think that would delay development of the convention center's expansion greatly. I just don't see us going down that road at all. So.
Jeff, did you have something?
Yeah, I actually am going to go in the other direction on that one. I think that the city raises a legitimate point. I mean, what their point is basically that the structure of the CIB sets up this kind of perfect equality and symmetry between the two bodies or between the two units of government. But there's also an additional asymmetry where the county has unilateral control of the innkeeper's tax. So I think, although we certainly agree we can't change state statute. I don't think anybody thinks we can, or is even pretending that and I don't think we're being asked to change state statute. But I think there are ways that we could at least attempt to grapple with that. I mean, for example, we could say that we will request for this, let's say for this particular appointment to the Convention and Visitors Commission, that we will request and consider an appointment from the city or something like that. I mean, there are things we can do. There are other bodies that do that, like the Economic Development Commission, where, the county appoints, but we request an appointment from the city council, or the mayor requests an appointment from the county council. I mean, there are other where we are still the statutory appointing body, and we still ultimately have to make that decision. But we can say we will request and consider an appointment from the city for this, because there is a legitimate issue about both the imbalance, and then also I think the city has an interest in ensuring that city hoteliers are also are in the mix or in the discussion. So I don't think anybody's, I think this can be handled without change, without a change to state statute or without contravening state statute.
So most of our hoteliers are really in the city anyway.
Right.
So
the vast majority of them are.
Marty?
Yes, if we're discussing appointments and so forth, the CIB also has something that's very troublesome for me, because it's saying that there's going to be 3 appointments by the city, 3 appointments by the county, and then those 6 appointments will recommend the 7th. Or recommended to who? And people are saying, and are commenting on it as though it's saying that they have made the appointment, but the wording says it recommends.
Mhm.
And
I-
so, and
you know,
so
I
it
don't-
should be recommended to who?
I think the recommend versus appoint differences because of what the CIB statute sets out as to who makes the appointments.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think though that in general, what we wanted to accomplish tonight is just, does this resolution support in the way that we want it to the commissioner's efforts on a CIB? And given that we do have another lengthy agenda item, I'm wondering if we could just have final comment and put this on the agenda for December 6th. Go ahead, Trent.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam President. By the way, I think every council member and person in this room should compliment our president, who is managing a very detailed meeting from afar, and saving me from having to do it. And she's the same for that. I would just say this, it's very similar to the comment that I had earlier tonight. I like things that move things. And I think the CIB is one of those things that moves this other thing that's a bigger thing in the community. I think it moves it along, and there's a length of public transparency. And as I say, on every time convention center discussions come up, I do not believe in X amount of time. And I think you could put a lot of variables in that. I don't think people will remember too many details about it other than it's either moving or not moving. So I look forward to this resolution and eventual adoption. And then I think Councilor Munson had something.
Okay, go ahead.
So my comment is that I would prefer to vote on this tonight if we have discussed this adequately. And this is because I would hope to see this discussed by city government further, and delaying until another week, I think just kicks it further down the road. And if we don't have any concerns about the language in this resolution, then I would prefer to move forward.
So if we just take out all the language having to do with innkeeper's tax, and we can just vote on the rest and vote tonight. Be okay for me.
Councilor McKim.
And I'm certainly fine with that. I'm happy to have us vote on a simple resolution expressing our support for the CIB. I just want to make sure that we acknowledge that there are some legitimate issues raised in the city memo that we need to consider, just not in this resolution.
Right.
Okay, so I think we're all in agreement that this isn't the final word on everything. Then I'm good with it.
And so for clarity, I've struck the language in that second whereas, starting with historically approximately 40%. So, and then the number 2 and number 3 after therefore. And here I can go ahead.
And no one's actually read a motion on the floor, right?
No.
This was just introduced as a
That's
discussion.
correct. That's correct. I would
Move approval of the resolution with the amendments that have already been made through strike through.
Second.
thank you. Any further comments? Any public comment? Making sure, sorry, I lost one of my windows. See no public comment. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley. Yes. Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
And could I ask a question? Would it be possible for you to clean up that and then do virtual, however you do the signatures for us?
I actually just cleaned it up and printed it in council's office, so I'm gonna run and get it.
Look at that efficiency.
That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Control P wins again.
Okay, we, I believe now are on agenda item number 10. And I'd like to invite the Board of Commissioners to join us so that we can discuss projects for the American Rescue Plan Act Fund, as we affectionately called ARPA. And also, as kind as Trent is in saying that able to manage this meeting, because it is a complicated discussion and I don't want to mess up participation and acknowledging folks. I'm going to turn it over to him to manage this discussion.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam President. I see Commissioner Thomas. I saw her and then she vanished.
She's on.
There she is.
I'm here. Sorry. I wanted to keep the dog out of my office.
Oh, we understand that. Commissioner Thomas, did you want to make some comments to get us started or any discussion points?
Well, I would just say that I know that everyone has had the opportunity to participate in the Excel spreadsheet exercise, and hopefully that will be a good starting point. I would like to see us move forward as quickly as possible. And I think my colleagues agree with that on the Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Well, we will open this up to counselors and comments they may have on particular ARPA expenditures or dollars or projects or thoughts. And so I'll look to any counselor that would like to make a comment. Counselor Iverson.
I think I appreciate the collaborative nature that this council and the Board of Commissioners has worked together on these projects. And I think one of the most challenging parts for me, as I'm sure my colleagues will agree, is just how many options there are to invest these dollars. There's clearly more need out there than what these dollars can meet. And so that will be one of the ongoing challenges. The second challenge that I wanted to identify that I personally had moving forward here is just how some of these challenges aren't time sensitive while others are. And how some of the needs that we're looking to meet, whether it's facing climate change or addressing mental health, are issues that we're still trying to wrap our heads around and make meaningful investments here. So I think those are the two comments that I wanted to get this conversation kicked off with. And I think that's why, I'll leave it at that. But those are two areas that I found particularly challenging. And that's why I made a comment earlier about how helpful I found Ms. Gregory's cheat sheet. I think that's an important tool that we can use going forward.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councilor Iverson. Other comments from counselors? Councilor Wiltz.
I just, in the same spirit of sort of summing up some thoughts, is I also wanted to acknowledge that as I went through our shared spreadsheet and sort of apportioned various amounts of money to various projects, I was keeping in mind the fact that we do not need to spend all of our ARPA money right now or right away. And I feel that the county has some pretty important considerations in terms of community justice response, mental health needs that we haven't fully articulated. And I, for one, put almost half, I think, of the amount aside to look at next year for specifically those particular purposes. That said, I agree. There were a lot of really important projects, and I was delighted at the number I was able to think about and feel really good about putting money toward in the near future.
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge Commissioner Penny Givens is on, and I neglected to do that when I should. So welcome, Commissioner Givens, as well.
We're good, thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Crossley.
So, and going through the spreadsheet, and thinking about things, and as we went through, council training, if you will, that's what I like to think of it. Back in June, when we were discussing ARPA, one of the things that I took away from that discussion was the funding from ARPA is supposed to be a one-time thing where we see a dire need in our community, and we put funds to that need so that we can expand upon that and make that need a thing of the past or make something that's better. And President Wilkes actually just said something that made me think of this too as I was going through this. And also a member of the Community Justice Response Committee. I'd almost like to see our mental health and substance use disorder, like almost that topic be actually changed to something to suit the community justice response need. And I too had a huge amount that as on my Christmas list, if you will, of ARPA funds, I put towards that because, again, as I've said in those meetings several times, and it's no surprise, it would be nice. We already know mental health, substance use, those that are experiencing homelessness, those are folks that are going into our facility. And I think one of the biggest things for me personally is in order, as we talk about a new facility, and I'm not going down that road right now, but as we imagine that with our ARPA dollars, is we have a pivotal moment right now in our community where we can answer a need that we all see each and every day as we drive down the street, as we look at jail bookings, all of those things. We have a dire need. And I really like to hone in and make a public plea of making sure that we are putting good use to these funds in regards to this particular area. Because if we fund this particular area, maybe we can divert people more from our facilities by putting more use to that as well. So I too put in quite a bit of money in that particular area, and that would be my plea. Of course, there are lots of things that are on there that we need, but for me personally, this is a huge deal and a big moment for us to really put our money where our mouth is.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Crossley. Councilor McKim.
Yeah, I guess just as once again, a way of moving forward, I wonder if there are any areas of near universal agreement that that we can move forward sooner rather than later on. Like, for example, it seems that that support for purchasing new buses for rural transit seems to enjoy nearly universal support. That the Habitat for Humanity Osage Place is another one that does. I believe Elder Services is another one.
Yes.
There's quite a lot for mental health, but substance use disorder, but I think that's a really broad statement, and we might want to at some point spend some time or come up with some way to focus those requests. I know that Councilor Crossley just suggested one way to kind of reframe it and refocus it. And I in general, I support that, although I think that there are also right now some substance use disorder, mental health issues that are fairly urgent from Centerstone, for example, right now that I would like to advocate for. And then the other one, the other area that I think doesn't necessarily enjoy universal support, but I think it's really important that we put some into is essentially public safety salaries, which we've already just increased. So I'm not saying public safety salaries on top of what we already done, but just a way to pay for some of the increase that we passed. I mean, this is, part of the point of ARPA is to react to the pandemic and the economic effects caused by that, which include the economic effects that we're dealing with right now in staffing. So I really think it's important that and I don't know exactly what that right amount is, but I think $1 to $2 million for essentially salary replacement would not be at all unreasonable.
Julie had her hand raised.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So I appreciate hearing all the commentary. I think this is something where, again, we'd like to see movement forward as soon as possible on many of these projects. They're already spec'd out in terms of cost, in terms of outcome. We are well aware of them. I think there is probably going to be universal agreement on some of them. And I think on others, we're looking at 2023, 2024, really. We just use 2023 as a second category in this spreadsheet, but I think that also can move into 2024 as long as it's early in the year and the money's spent by the end of the year. So here's what I would ask, and just to get your input to see if we could have something to move forward on next week at your next week's meeting. There are some council members who have not completed the spreadsheet yet. So, and then I'm hearing new proposals, fine, but I think we need clarity. So if there's somebody that has a specific proposal, put a line in that spreadsheet and write out what it is, and there's plenty of room to do it. All the columns will still add up, but be specific if you have a new proposal, especially one that's urgent, not so much one for next year. And I do think if you could get in and do the spreadsheet, for those who haven't finished it, I've got 2 people missing off of it right now. I pulled it about half hour into the meeting today. So there's still 2 council members who haven't put anything in. And I would then take whatever's there by the end of the day, Friday this week, put it together, look for those things where everybody seems to be in agreement, and put those together, and then look at some of the other things that I'm seeing. If nobody wants something or whatever it might be, put together something for the meeting Tuesday based on what's on that spreadsheet. Would that help?
I think Councillor Hawk has a comment.
Yes, when I was reviewing some of the categories, I would like to see more emphasis placed on helping the elderly remain in their homes, such as repairs or something. The part that was included for repairs was really almost laughable when you consider how many that might fix. I mean, when we think about our senior citizens who are living in homes who need new furnaces or a new roof or something so that they can stay there and not have to move on to some kind of retirement home that they really can't even afford to do. So it seems to me that we ought to be able to figure out a way to assist them in some ways. And I'd also like to see as many dollars as we could afford to put toward workforce housing. I really appreciate the Habitat situation, not just there, but wherever we might be able to use that. But workforce housing, we know, we hear that from everyone, and costs are going up. So whatever we could do for that as well. And I didn't enter dollar amounts when I was reviewing it because I thought we were waiting on what the dollar amount is that we were going to ask to put in there to correct these salaries and to put whatever we could for county employee expense into that, because it does say that you can use up to 25%. I think it's 25% of any person's salary. So, I mean, I think we could make sure that we were covering what we needed to assist in that. Now I have to go home.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yeah, could we have Cheryl Munson talk a little bit about what she did add? Because I think that's really relevant here. And anyway, would you mind, Cheryl?
Sure, I'm glad to. I put in the one-time bonus for public safety officers as a countywide retention bonus. And that's 2022A that we did not vote on tonight. And we chose another course of action to compensate our public safety personnel. I also put in under 2022B, something that really isn't our proposal B, but it's an alternative. And this was the cost of the $2,000 retention bonus from both the general fund and from the public safety lit fund. And this is a drawback to this, is that it's only for public safety officers. The alternative is the one-time $2,000 bonus that is for all employees. And Michelle calculated this for the general fund, public safety lit, aviation health, et cetera, surveyor, all these funds. And that total was roughly 1.2 or $1.3 million. And so that would be a retention bonus for all employees. And it's listed as countywide retention bonus. And that's where I put my money for the amount that was calculated as the cost of the.
I think Councilor McKim is.
I just realized that this isn't displaying on the screen. I figured we were actually sharing this. I'm sorry. Does somebody mind if I share that? I don't have permission to do that,
Please.
but can I be given permission to? Not that it's that easy to read a big spreadsheet on the screen, but it's. Oh.
So I think one of the things I would add, if I could at this juncture, is that everyone should go back and look at the spreadsheet and see if there is something they want to allocate money to that they didn't before, if they want to change their allocations. And if we could do that by the end of the day, Friday, I can kind of put this stuff together into a more readable form for the council and commissioners to talk about next Tuesday. Would that work for everyone? I didn't get an answer on that.
Councilor McKim is projecting something. Councilor Iverson, yeah.
So in response to Commissioner Thomas, I think that's very doable. And the way that you see everything lined out on the spreadsheet shows pretty rapidly where there is some consensus building about some of these things. So I think a deadline of the end of this week for the commissioners, at least in my opinion, that's very doable.
Thank you. Councilor Munson and then McKim.
Okay, so I had trouble with the spreadsheet, Commissioner Thomas, because I wanted to not spend all of my allotted 26 million or whatever it is, 24 million, excuse me. And I wanted to save some for 23 and 24. And I wonder if I wondered about this because we were advised by the State Board of Accounts that the rules of governing ARPA expenditures may be changed to allow such things as endowments, which would greatly facilitate our ability to invest long-term in social services. And I'm wondering if there couldn't be, one more line added per one more year added to each of the categories that we're reviewing.
So can I respond? Is that okay?
Please, please.
Okay, thank you. So it is hard to do this over Zoom. So we're in the eve of December 2022. In my book, these dates are 2023, 2024.
Okay.
Really. And I think if you choose to leave money at the end, I think that's totally fine. It may be that there's a project you have in mind. It may be that there's something that you want to see what goes on in January 2024 and attack a new project that you don't know about yet. That's fine. I think if you leave money, that's fine. I think really anything we can get done this year, I think would be great. And I think if you want to put money into a future year, just use the 2023 list. And that way everybody doesn't have to go back in. It might be easiest to do it that way. Just put it there to say, I want to earmark it for example, for rural housing. I want to earmark a certain amount for rural housing for the future. Just call 2023 the future and just put money there. And that way we know where we're going to allocate it. It may not be on a specific thing yet that we know of. It may be on a specific thing. I did that with the endowment for Enright East. I put money in 2023 line because I know that that's something we're hoping we will be able to do with an endowment. Same thing with childcare. We don't have that ability right now, but at least the money's there, and I've earmarked it to say I would really like it to go for this. So if we can all take that approach, I think most people did already. If we can all take that approach, that's great. If there's money left, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't have to spend every dime of it right now. But I certainly think if we can get moving on some of these things, that would be awesome. I know that there are a lot of projects that really can get rolling, but the sooner we can let them know we're going to get rolling on them, the better. And I'd like to give you an example of that if I could, which is the 6 paving projects, the 6 subdivisions, and then the 3 separate stormwater projects. One of the things that we were supposed to be doing this year is the stormwater board was supposed to be talking about a stormwater increase. But if these projects remain in, we aren't going to be talking about that for at least another year now. I think the public would like to know that. I would like to know that. So I think that it would be really helpful to get some of these things just cemented away and so that we know what we're doing. We all know what we agree on right now. It's never going to be perfect, as Councilor Decker points out, absolutely correct. It'll never be perfect, but I think not doing anything, paralysis by analysis, is not very helpful either. So if we can move forward, I think that would be great on some of these.
Okay.
Councilor McKim.
I guess I'm just really still struggling on the process here. I'm not quite sure what the end of this is going to be. I mean, so at some point the council needs to do appropriations. Those appropriations have a kind of a timeline that's a little longer. The commissioners may or may not have to amend their plan to accommodate. I mean, is the idea still to do this? I guess I still feel like somebody just needs to make a proposal to fund the immediate, well-defined and relatively urgent priorities and have both bodies, vote on them in the appropriate way.
And that's
what you're,
my proposal for.
and that's what you're trying to do. Okay.
Yeah, and because then the commissioners can consider it before our last meeting of December, and we can move forward on some things. And then we'll know, hey, this is what we're going to talk about in January, February. And then we can say next year, at the end of the year, let's talk about these, whatever it is. But we can hash through that on Tuesday next week.
Yeah, because we couldn't even do any appropriations yet this year, could we?
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. Appropriations is on the December 6th agenda. We advertise the appropriations at the full amount, and so they're on the agenda for the next council meeting.
Oh, so we could do some appropriation.
Yes, I advertise the full amount across all 4 categories. So.
Okay, that changes the timeline then.
Yeah.
So yeah, my thought was that we might identify those consensus items tonight, refine language and get that into an appropriation for December 6th. And that's why I asked the question at the beginning of the meeting. I'm assuming that most of these wouldn't require an amendment to the plan on the commissioner's part.
No, they would. I think they would.
Oh, they would.
Mhm.
So that would have to happen before Tuesday. If we were to.
It would happen on Wednesday. It would happen the day after at the commissioners meeting the next day.
So to ask a clarification question, if we were to finalize everyone's wish list or thoughts on this list, are you saying, Commissioner Thomas, that the council would then kind of come back in to next Tuesday? And where would that kind of the wish list go from to a distinct proposal before us? Or what are your thoughts on that?
So what I could do is take a look at where the agreement is. There's still, again, 2 council members who have not completed the form. So I'm not sure that we can talk through that tonight without their input. And look for those really obvious ones. And then where there's a span of money, I can bring that forward and we can talk through if there is a difference of the dollar amounts, where we could talk through the low end, the high end, and maybe come to a consensus next week at the meeting on some of those other items. And there are some that have quite a span of dollars. And it could be that we start one project or one part of the project with a set amount of money, and then we agree to come back to it and see if there's money remaining and what else needs to be done on that particular project. But I need to get those last 2 council members giving input. It looks like Jen's numbers are on there now. So I think we do have everybody's, except Marty. We don't have Marty's.
I'm not sure we can expect that.
But she might. I mean, if she wants to put more into rural housing, she should put a big number in there. That's fine. That's great. I would love to see that anyway. But let's get that last one in if we can. Let's see what everybody wants to adjust, because there are some new items listed in there that Councilor Munson and Councilor McKim talked about. And so everybody should go through those numbers again and make sure that they're comfortable with them. Yeah. And then I can pull something together over the weekend. I can get it sent out on Monday morning for you all to start looking at and thinking about, and then we can talk on Tuesday.
Councilor McKim.
I just want to say that I think that with all due respect to Councilor Munson's great efforts on the form here, I think what we need we need to understand is the point here is just to offset spending in the general fund,
Right.
to keep the lights on. Part of ARPA is there to offset
Exactly.
lost revenue, to keep the lights on. So it doesn't, all the nuances of exactly what it pays for, just doesn't matter. It's just an amount that we want to offset, and we could use it to pay for that much put in public safety salaries. That's all. $2 million, just say $2 million in public safety offset or something like that. It doesn't really matter what specific bonus or raise or what it's going to pay for.
Counselor Munson.
I would like to change what I proposed in the spreadsheet because of decisions we made earlier tonight. And so I will change it to just public safety. And then I will also revise one to be the $2,000 retention bonus. And so it'll be much shorter. It will look different. And your allocations need to change also. So would you please go back in and look at this? I will try it and do this tomorrow morning so you can jump on it.
And I wanted to make, before we turn to Michelle.
Oh, yeah. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, you go ahead.
I just didn't get it all out. Commissioners also didn't have a chance to look at these proposals that are at the bottom of the spreadsheet. So if you would wait till afternoon tomorrow, that would be helpful.
I wanted to thank you, Councilor Munson. I wanted to say really quickly, in addition to the work on the public safety dollars in the whole, which is an ARPA fulfillment, I think there is also another emergency service item on there around ambulance services that I think is very near and dear to people of the county in everyday situations they don't like. So I appreciate, I don't think that'd come up in the discussion. I wanted to bring it to it, in addition to what Councilor Crosley had said, particularly about mental health and treatment. I know that is a big piece of the puzzle we're trying to figure out, and housing and all that. Counselor, pardon me.
Whoa.
I'm not going to demote you. I'm not going to demote you. Kim Shell.
I just want to say, even though I advertise for next week, I mean, I can put that on the agenda and we can table that to a different meeting. So you're not locked in to that date. I mean, and even if you don't, I mean, we can always come back and re-advertise. So don't think that you have to, have some numbers set and ready for December 6th. So
that is a very important point. Thank you.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can move anything around.
Thank you. Counselor Wiltz, you had your hand up.
I was going to make that same point. Thank you, Ms. Shell. I just wanted to clarify that, we need to, make sure we take the steps in the right order and think it through a little bit.
Well, just to add to it before I jump over to Councilor Iverson, one thing I'd say is a comment I made early on to some other elected officials in local government, that there is some wisdom for taking some time to consider what things develop. Here's a good example. When the pandemic started, I'm not sure that our first concern was that we would have necessarily the employee retention and other issues that we did. I remember those discussions where we vividly said, here's what's going to happen. The entire function of what we provide will not perhaps be able to be funded for the people of the county because everybody went home. And that's manifested in a completely different way, in that we have employees, positions vacant, demand with low unemployment. So I think there is something to keeping an eye towards things that develop too with this in the latter part as well. Councilor Iverson.
Well, thank you, Councilor Deckard. I hope I didn't rush you too much there in your statements.
No.
Okay, good. For the point of for expediency on some of these, I do count 4 projects in community infrastructure where there seems to be broad support one project in county infrastructure, the blue section where there seems to be very broad support, one project in the environment, the green section that has broad support, and two in public safety, the orange section. So I think of those projects that I listed, there doesn't seem to be consensus on necessarily on the dollar amount, but there seems to be consensus on these are projects that are well-defined and that we could make a difference here based on some of the reporting that we're getting from community agencies. So, but I do take Councilor Munson's point that we need to take some time with this spreadsheet probably.
Thank you, Councilor Iverson. Well, I've not done the job Councilor Wiltz usually does on this. Open up any final comments from members of the council far and wide. Commissioner Thomas, anything else on your end? Or Commissioner?
I thank you all. And I see exactly what Councilor Iverson's talking about. Yep, that's exactly what I wrote down. So I feel like we have a good plan. I just want to make sure we're all on board with having completed by close of business Friday your revised numbers into this spreadsheet, which is housed on the Dropbox for councilors and Board of Commissioners. I just want to make sure that we're still good with that. And then I will get something worked up over the weekend to bring back to folks. And it looks like Commissioner Githens has something to add.
Welcome, Commissioner Githens.
Hi, I just want to say I'm so pleased at how collaborative this process is evolving into. It feels so good to work with people who have some of the same goals that I have and that I think that my fellow commissioners have. But thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Anything else? Yes, Commissioner, Councilor Iverson.
All these promotions tonight.
Wow.
I do see some folks are on Zoom this evening. I was wondering if there's any public comment. But that's up to you to call for it if you want. So I was just wondering out loud.
Any thoughts from council? If you want me to rule on it.
I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt if if it was a particular, if you wanted to limit it to a particular amount of aggregate time. I think it has been, a fairly long meeting, and I don't think the idea was to have a long line of people advocating for one particular project or another. But I mean, if you wanted to do something like, 15 minutes of public comment or something like that, that would be reasonable.
All right.
In my opinion.
Let's do 15 minutes of public comment. If you have public comment, there officially is not anyone in the Now You Hill, so we'll look to Zoom. Anyone on Zoom, raise your hand. We got somebody?
Yes.
If we could promote them. And when you're unmuted and promoted, if you will say your name, please. And let's set a 3-minute limit on this, please.
Good evening, elected officials. This is Christopher MG from the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce. Wonderful talk, wonderful discussion tonight. I want to commend this body and county government and how it took the necessary duration to ponder the uses of the American Rescue Plan Fund, ARPA. Thank you for being process-oriented in a thoughtful, deliberate, and transparent manner. The joint listening sessions supplied a real avenue for public input in an open environment. I was one of 70-odd individuals who filled out the survey. The Biden administration ARPA funds remain a real difference maker for a one-time investment in this community. The vast number of proposed project and uses in the packet listed in the 4 sectors show a real concern for the betterment of the entire populace. The chamber appreciates the value put on local business, community, and the program partnerships within it. We have long felt to be a conduit for collaboration and cooperation in the community. Chamber wants to reiterate its support for rural transit and infrastructure improvements. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I appreciate all the effort everyone has put into this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We appreciate it. Any other hands raised?
I'm not seeing any.
Going once, twice. Well, thank you very much for public comments. Any final comments here? I think we probably milked the cow, right? All right.
So to speak.
My stool is lost.
So full of homespun wisdom.
It's all I have, literally, Councilman.
My stool has lost one of its legs.
No stool left.
Thank you, Counselor Deckard, for navigating that. That was lovely. And thanks to the commissioners for being here and kind of outlining a way forward. So we've got a path and that'll be great. And we need to move on to item 10B, which was added at the beginning of the meeting. And I believe it was titled Railroad Grant Support. Counselor McKim, could you tell us about this?
Yes, and this is essentially, we already did this last year. We essentially wrote a letter of support and pledged a nominal $1,000 match to the Indiana Railroad for a federal railroad safety grant. They did not get that grant, so we didn't spend anything. But they're applying for a new version of that. It's called CRISI. Is the name of the grant, the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Grant, and it involves over $22.3 million in investment in railroad safety in southern Indiana to replace various outdated and potentially in the future unsafe trestles and bridges with more modern structures. There are two of them in Monroe County. They're the same ones that we had discussed before. There's one on Richardson Road. And then there's another one on that's kind of out by the Karst Farm Greenway near Gifford Road. It's interesting because neither of these, particularly the one in Gifford Road, is not one that you would ever even see. It's not something that, that really it's even very easy for a pedestrian or a motorist to see, but, it's part of the infrastructure that trains pass over every day. And so this is just an attempt to modernize, continue to modernize the rail infrastructure to keep Indiana's railroad industry competitive. And so this is just, like I said, I'm just asking for the council to officially sign a letter of support and a pledge of $1,000 in matching funds if they are awarded the grant. So I move that we authorize the council to sign that letter of support and pledge $1,000.
Second.
Are there any questions for Councilor McKim or comments? Councilor Munson.
I want to be sure that this does not include the bridge over I-69.
No, it's just those two in Monroe County.
From the map, I couldn't really see.
I know. I was just told the map is too small. And in fact, Marty asked another question. She asked if it meant taking down the tulip trestle. I was like,
no. That's just
nobody's proposing to get rid of the tulip trestle.
I see the traffic back up. But going both north and south around that railroad bridge. And I sure wish it could, the number of lanes could be expanded on both sides.
And the tracks or the number of tracks.
That bridge is a problem.
Good point.
Any other questions? Ms. Shell?
I just wanted to remind the council that I did send to you a copy of the letter along with some maps so that you can tweak that a support letter to I think there's a section that you needed to give your reasons or something like that, but you all have received copies of that through email so that you can update those letters. And what are they supposed to do with those?
Do you all trust me to just wordsmith the letter a little bit?
I do.
All 3 sentences of support, and then you can just send it out just like to Bernie Garitas the way that
Okay,
you did
and
last.
I'll just add, because I didn't have a copy, I'll just add everyone's electronic signature to that.
Yes.
Okay.
So should there be public comment on this? Public comment? No public comment. And we should vote on this. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley. Yes. Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. Now we are at our last item, which is council comments. Are there any councilors who wish to make comment this evening? Counselor Iverson.
Yes, tonight I'm wearing a blue shirt because the U.S. men's soccer team got out of the group schedules today in a thrilling game, which gives me an opportunity to brag about the IU men's soccer club, who is now in the Elite Eight. And so this is going to be a great Saturday for all of us, not only Hoosier fans, but also all of us soccer lovers. The U.S. men's national team plays at 10 a.m. and our Hoosiers play at 6 p.m. So congratulations to our Hoosier soccer players.
Great, thanks. Any other counselors with comments for today? Okay, well, I would just like to thank you all for your patience with my long distance meeting facilitation skills or lack thereof. Appreciate that. And I will see you in person next week. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.